Some people saw the financial crisis of 2008 coming. Why don't I think that someone will see the next crisis? I think this has to do with the point that I made in the talk of risk is what you don't see. That the biggest story is always what no one is talking about. But if you go back to before 2008, there were some people, Peter Schiff, Nouriel Roubini, who were saying the mortgage market is a disaster waiting to happen. The banks are all going to collapse. So they did see it coming, right? I think there's several ways to look at this. One, credit where credit is due. They did see things that were brewing before most people, and good for them. They deserve credit and recognition for that. I do think there is some nuance, though, to wrap your head around exactly what happened here in a way that would still make me skeptical of forecasting the future. One is that lots of those people are what you would refer to as perma-bears, and some of those people had been predicting crisis since the Carter administration. So the fact that a crisis came in 2008, I think is a little bit more nuanced than of just saying they saw exactly it coming. I think it's a little bit even worse than broken clock is right twice a day, because it's not twice a day. For these people, it was once every 2 decades kind of thing. The second thing that is more important, and I think a little bit less insulting to someone than what I just said, is that even if you saw the financial crisis coming, you didn't know how it was going to play out. And a lot of people who saw it coming prepared for it with their portfolios by assuming that the US dollar was going to collapse. That was kind of the big trade around a lot of this. Shorting CDOs and shorting the banks was not a big part of what they were doing. Some people did, of course, and there's a lot of stories about that. But the biggest trade that was set up around the pending financial crisis was shorting the US dollar, which did not work at all. The other thing is that there's so much nuance and trivia and accident that played into how the financial crisis played out. Bear Stearns was purchased by JP Morgan. Fannie and Freddie was bailed out by the United States. Lehman Brothers could not find a buyer and went bankrupt. And there's so much trivia again of what happened in there. Lehman Brothers was all set to be purchased by Barclays in September of 2008. But from what I understand, they could not make the transaction work because they were negotiating on a weekend, and the financial regulator in the UK, where Barclays was based, couldn't do work on the weekends. They weren't set up to approve a deal on a Sunday, which means that, look, if Lehman Brothers had collapsed on a Wednesday, they probably would have been purchased by Barclays, and the world would have been very different. The financial crisis of 2008 would have played out totally different. So there's so many little things like that. Merrill Lynch was one of the most egregious players in the subprime mortgage market, and they were bought by Bank of America for a very large sum of money. So there's so many different things that people could not have known, even if you saw the broad crisis coming. And I think it'll be the same for future crises.